We have more breaking news tonight on the thoughts inside the House Speaker's office. NBC News is reporting that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is dropping her months-long opposition to talk of impeachment, considering it as too divisive in the past. But multiple Democratic aides tonight say that Pelosi is asking colleagues whether they believe President Trump's own admission that he pressured his Ukrainian counterpart to investigate Joe Biden is a tipping point. Pelosi's office is refusing to comment on the record. NBC News has also learned that Speaker Pelosi and House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler spoke by phone today about the Trump whistleblower complaint and impeachment. Alex Jeffy and Steve Shepard are back with us. Alex, let me start with you. For months, we've been saying that it would be surprising if Nancy Pelosi were to come out for impeachment. Have we reached the point where it would now be a surprise if she doesn't?
You know, I don't think we're at that point yet because there are still a number of Democrats that are key to their chances of holding onto the House that are reticent to support it. I mean, two are here in Iowa. Abby Finkenauer and Cindy Axne just won both tough races in 2018. Those are districts that went blue to red, and Donald Trump won, and tight races. And so they're worried about their reelection fortunes, and Donald Trump is still pretty popular here. So until we start seeing lawmakers like those two come out in favor of it, I think she's still in a bit of a tough spot when it comes to impeachment.
So, Steve, Alex notes there are still some of these swing district competitive seat Democrats who clearly have some political doubts about the wisdom politically of impeaching the president. But then again, there also are some from swing districts, now competitive districts, who are coming out publicly who hadn't been speaking before.
Yeah, you mentioned the 7 freshman Democrats with national security experience who co-authored that Washington Post op-ed that broke tonight. 4 of them come from districts that Donald Trump carried in 2016. 2 of them, Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan and Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, come from districts Donald Trump carried by 5 points or greater. This is Republican territory. And while it is true Cindy Axne, Abby Finkenauer, and a bunch of other House Democrats who are vulnerable have not come out for this yet. It's now 9 of 31 of the Democrats who represent Trump districts are for impeachment, and half of those were today alone. So I think we are seeing what could be the beginning of a turning point here. And it's difficult to imagine that these 4 vulnerable Democrats on the Washington Post op-ed would come out so forcefully like this if they weren't some kind of stalking horse maybe for Speaker Pelosi and Democratic leadership, or at least felt confident that these calls weren't going to fall on deaf ears.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.